Turn your life around for the final bell. It's now or never, you have to change well. It's now or never, you must change well. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Hello and welcome to the Change Well podcast. You that have been listening before have noticed that we, just for this week, changed up our theme song. And the reason being, I want to talk about my favorite show of all time. And my favorite episode of my show of all time was the Easter special on the Waltons. And then after we talk a little bit about that special and getting ready in preparation for Easter, I want to talk about the 6 wellness lessons that I learned from watching the Waltons. Now, for all you that may be of a younger age of me, you may not know about this show back in the 70s and early 80s. But to me, it was the penultimate show. It's a show about family values, the show about natural living, and quite frankly, it's what we need more right now in this world. But on the episode for Easter, the matriarch of the family, Olivia, had come down with polio, and she had just resigned herself that maybe she would have to live forever in a wheelchair. But John Boy, and quite frankly, I love the right, so I used to, I was known as Don Boy back in the day. John Boy and Grandma would not give up on Olivia, and they tried this new treatment. And it seemed, though, the treatment didn't work even just before Easter. But late in the Easter early morning, Olivia hears the call of her smallest daughter, Elizabeth, in a dream, and suddenly jumps up, and she's all ready to go on Easter morning. This is the kind of show the Waltons was. It would pull at your heartstrings. I highly recommend it, but just look at your local TV and you should find the Waltons. I don't think it'll ever go out of style. But today, what I want to talk to you about is the wellness lessons of the Waltons. With all the bad news around the world today and us approaching Easter, I want to send out a prayer for the people in Baltimore with the bridge collapsing and that accident. I just felt it very important to talk about the Waltons. I quite frankly, after I get done this podcast, I'm probably going to go back there and binge watch it. But one thing is the Waltons, just by watching it, will improve your mental wellness. And after watching a few episodes of this, I realized the Waltons are not just good for your soul, they're good for overall wellness. If you look at the Waltons, they're fit. They're well fed, but not overly fed because, it is the Depression. And, they're walking, they're riding horses. They don't have any TV until later episodes when they brought in the special. But this is the main reason I believe the Waltons are best for wellness. And here are the 6 reasons why. First thing is, the Waltons love the outdoors and respect for nature. The Waltons spent a good time playing outdoors. That's what we all used to do. I used to get on my bike and ride around Crosswicks. But now, whether they were whether they were walking to school, climbing the mountains named after them, or fishing with Yancey Tucker, they had a healthy respect and love for nature. It's good just to go out there and breathe the fresh air. I still miss being out in Washington State and going and walking around Mount Rainier. The Waltons were never in need of a vitamin D shot. They got plenty of it. They were walking around in the beautiful sun and they walked to school. And Grandpa perhaps said it best. You can't own a mountain any more than you can own an ocean or a piece of sky. You hold it in trust. You live on it. You take life from it. And once you're dead, you rest in it. The Waltons drew life and health from the mountains, and in so doing held their land in a sacred trust. And we all should hold the good earth that God gave us in a sacred trust and, quite frankly, spend more time in it. The second wellness lesson from the Waltons is spend time as a family. Wellness is not Waltoness and wellness. It's not always about physical fitness. It also includes loving someone and having them love you in return. The Waltons never tired of spending time with one another. They always sat around the kitchen table, and they didn't have cell phones, but they didn't have books sitting there. I guess John Boy one time read a book at the table, and Grandma smacked his hand. But anyway, they sat at the table. They drew strength from each other, picking each other up when they felt down. And John Boy was right when he said, I've done an awful lot of thinking of what makes this family work. And I think it's because there's enough love to go around and some to spare. Let's all spare some love this Easter. The third thing, they ate fresh food in moderate portions. Another key to the wellness is eating fresh food and always do it in moderation. Now, the Waltons had to do a little bit of the moderation because they lived during the Depression. At one episode, they lost their cow. But bottom line is, they ate fresh, healthy food. They were the ultimate farm-to-table family. Also, with so many people in the family, it was hard not to eat in moderation. And when you did, you always had their grandma, the Waltons, there to make sure you didn't eat too much. Here's a conversation between Grandpa and Grandma, and it would be a lot. We should all listen to it. Some of us that we have a proclivity to eat too much. Grandpa, I could do another sandwich. Grandma Walton, you're the one at this table who could do a little starving. Grandpa, Esther, we've got to keep our strength up. Grandma, strength, I think you just get weak carrying all that weight around. We all need that inner grandma keeping us from eating too much and making food to keep us healthy with good food. 4, love your work, but find time for rest and play. The Waltons worked hard and enjoyed their work. They worked in a mill. Their dad had a mill. They cut the wood. They enjoyed the craft and the satisfaction of creating something with their hands. As John Boy Walton once said, one of the things I find distressing about life today is that people don't really seem to enjoy their work anymore. When I was growing up on Walton's Mountain, my father and my grandfather loved their work, and they instilled a respect for work in each of us. Work is all fine and good, but when the Waltons were done work, they found time for relaxation. And as the good Lord ordained, they rested on the seventh day. We should all follow these words from John Boy's journal. Sunday afternoon on Walton's Mountain was a kind of quiet contemplation. We took it easy, or else worked at a slower pace and enjoyed a brief respite from the cares that beset us during the week. After we came home from church and had dinner, we permitted ourselves the luxury of play and relaxation. This Sunday especially, find time for play after working at what you love. 5, get plenty of a rest after saying good night to loved ones. Everyone who knows the Waltons know where I'm going with this one. Just before they went to bed, everybody said good night to each other, like, good night, Mary Ellen. Good night, Esther. That's what Grandpa would say. Others would say good night, Grandma. Good night, Mom. Good night, Dad. Good night, John Boy. No matter how much Jim Bob irritated Mary Ellen or John Boy struggled to write the next chapter, they always ended the night with a good night to each other, and they got their rest. So make time for rest, even when you're slaving over a book like John Boy or maybe me. And last, and this is most important, listen and be thankful. The greatest keys to wellness is being thankful for what you have and to listen and be mindful of the beauty around you. It is amazing the lessons that you can learn when you stop and listen to the wonder of nature. And as John Boy wrote in his journal, I think if we learn to listen, we could hear all kinds of miracles. So this week, take time to listen. Listen to the nature around you. Listen to the miracle of the birds. Listen to look and see the miracle of the moon and the miracle of the eclipse that's coming in I believe April 8th. Truer words have never been written. You and this whole world that God has wrought is a miracle speaking to our hearts. Stop and take time to listen. And until next time, change well.